Doomsday, according to some South Philadelphia Twitter accounts that I've been dabbling into over the last 24 hours. Juan Soto signs a 15-year, $765 million deal with those rival Mets. The Mets swoop in and take them from their Subway Series and rival New York Yankees. Welcome back to the Cherry Pinstripes podcast. My name is Shelfy. I'm your host, and we are breaking down the Phillies offseason from start to finish. And we had some major news in Major League Baseball yesterday with this Juan Soto signing. First, let me just start by saying, oh my goodness, it's not even Christmas. The stove is hot. The winter meetings haven't even started yet. The ball is rolling. I think Willy Adames actually was the person who put the wheels in motion here. Jolly kind of mentioned in his video the other day, when the backup plan signed before plan A, it puts a little bit of pressure on teams. You never know who out there was looking at Willy Adames as a plan B. So stuff like that can shake things up. We see Adames go out to San Francisco. Bang. Now Juan Soto's in New York with the Mets. No idea if they're correlated. But I'm just excited that things are happening before Christmas. Baseball, ever since the Machado-Harper signing, the off seasons have been slow and boring and going into spring training. So this is a nice, refreshing off season for me. I am not mad at this. There's a lot of Phillies fans that are upset at this. They're hitting the panic button. We're melting down online. I must say, I'm happy I seen it coming. Seen it coming light years away, was prepared for this. The day Steve Cohen bought that franchise, you knew something like this was eventually going to happen. At some point, the Mets were going to make the biggest free agency signing ever. It was going to happen no matter what. We just needed to find the right piece. Shohei was never leaving LA. It was just about getting the dollars up. Juan Soto was the guy. And I think they've been gearing up for this. All the money that they've spent the last couple of years have been extremely short-term deals. They're throwing out those 40 AAVs at the older pitchers when they had the Verlanders come in. They were waiting for this. And now they have their guy to piece next to Lindor. And they still have over $110 million to spend this year on this team. But I will say, there are holes to fill. Any logical Mets fan or analyst is going to tell you as well, they still have holes to fill. They should be considering bringing Pete Alonso back, because if you don't, you got to maybe move Vientos over to first base. They definitely need some pitching depth. I think if Sean Manaea walks out the door, that is a huge mistake. Huge mistake. There's some injury concerns there with the arm angle change, but there's also an incredibly high ceiling now with that arm angle, because Manaea, a guy who's been really good, has always been good. He was a top prospect with Oakland. He was an opening day starter for them at one point. The stuff's always been there. He's been solid. Changing the arm angle last year really unlocked something. Kind of reminds me of when Charlie Morton just woke up one day and decided to mimic Roy Halladay's windup. Ended up extending his career, was really good on playoff teams down the stretch in his career. I think Sean Manaea is doing a little bit similar thing. Take a page out of a Hall of Famer's book. Fine-tune a couple things. Bam. And he's got it down. That guy looks good. And I think he's going to get some money, especially with where the starting pitcher market is. The starting pitcher market is so crazy right now. We have multiple relievers marketing themselves as starters. Clay Holmes and Jeff Hoffman want starter money. Wild offseason. But yeah, these Mets, man, they still have holes to fill. They got guys they got to go get. They need pitching depth. They got to figure out first and third base now. But the Phillies, how does this affect our Phils? I'm going to tell you straight up. It doesn't. We've got to get off the panic button. It does not impact the Phillies. We have got our own issues. The free agency pool doesn't necessarily fit our current needs, which is why you see them in the trade market so heavily, and we've seen this coming. The Phillies need to worry about their own holes. This is going to be a 90-win projected team, even with the Mets doing what they're doing. The NL East is going to be an absolute war zone, but as we've learned, winning the division isn't the end-all, be-all anyway. Put a good baseball team together, fill your holes as the season goes on, figure it out by October. The Phillies have to worry about their own roster. They got to worry about plugging their own holes. The Mets still have their own issues they got to work on. The Braves are going to be back. We're going to enter a 2025 with this NL East. It is going to be nuclear warfare out there. The Nationals, too. I got to throw a tip I had to the Nationals. I haven't spent any money. I was expecting to see them bring a guy or two in this offseason. Prices are high, though. The Nationals are going to be a little team next year. I think they're a 500-plus team next season with all those young guys, even with how competitive this division is. So the Phillies, this is going to be tough. I don't mind if they slide back. If they end up being a wild card team next year, I don't care about that. I'm seeing a whole lot of Well, they're the third best team in the division now. The third best team in the division can win the World Series with how things are structured. You can be a really good team in the wild card. We have been there. And I'm kind of excited about the fact that the Phillies are now going to go back into that almost underdog role. I love the fact that we're counting ourselves out and fans are already chalking us up as the 3. We're suddenly declining, even though our win totals have gone up 3 years in a row. That playoff series sucked. It hurt bad. It was bad. We got question marks on some of our young players. We got some roster structure shaking we need to do. There's contracts falling off next year. We got to figure out what's going on with Schwarber and Realmuto at the end of next year. But the core of this team, this pitching staff, 1 through 5 in the lineup, they're going to be in the mix. The core of this team is there. It's there. We're fine. Is Garrett Crochet the guy, though? Before we move into the Garrett Crochet rumors, I'm going to turn it over to my boy Chris Rose to tell you about Blitzball Battle 5.
It is semifinal time here in the warehouse as Team Baggage takes on Lovias. It's been a while since we've seen them. They've been resting. They've been relaxing. They got their pitching in order. The tandem of Nicky Cass and Dalton Feely feeling great.
They feel great, and they are the favorites. They have obviously been swinging the bat as good as anybody until yesterday when we saw Baggage unlock something. Extra base hits. They were known for their singles, and I'm not just talking about Match.com. We're talking about actual singles. These guys could not get an extra base hit to save their lives. That all changed yesterday.
All right, prediction time. Kelsey Wingert, who do you have in this one?
Lavia is the only team to have a bye. Baggage is running hot. So because of that, I'm going to take Team Lovias because every time I try to take Team Baggage thinking that they're going to win, they lose. Baggage, but Lovias. You get it?
I haven't picked Lovias for obvious reasons, so I'm picking Baggage.
I got Baggage. I thought it was nuts. I still think I'm nuts, but I'm going to go with Baggage.
I love it.
The winner has a berth in the final. It's Blitzball Battle 5, presented to you by DraftKings.
Let's pivot over to the Phillies a little bit more now. Juan Soto's with the Mets. We're going to be seeing him a whole lot over the next 15 years. What can the Phillies do now? We're still hearing Garrett Crochet rumors all over the place. Alec Boehm, Justin Crawford seems to be the top offer. Reports are also now out, though, that the White Sox aren't really interested in that. That could just be hoopla. The Red Sox. This is where it all comes down to. Marcelo Mayer is apparently the guy that the White Sox want. Will the Red Sox move Marcelo? There are rumors starting to swirl more and more as the day goes on that the Red Sox may actually be interested in trading Marcelo. We've seen these two teams do something like this before. You've seen the Moncada for Chris Sale trade back in the day that worked out. Could be a very similar situation here. If I'm in the White Sox front office, I would prioritize Marcelo. As a Phillies fan, objectively thinking, if it's Boehm Crawford or a Marcelo combo, I'm really looking into that Marcelo Mayer combo. And I'm trying to get as much as I can out of that one. If that's a possibility, I'm sitting there. That very much could be what's taking so long. The Phillies have their offer out there. They have their bodies out there. This is what we can give you. And I think it's a strong offer. Alec Boehm, Justin Crawford, and maybe like a Starling Caba or a lower prospect as a third. I think that's a strong offer. Doesn't mean it's the best offer, but I do think that could get it done if the dominoes fall correctly for the Phillies. Because at some point here, the pressure is going to start to be on the White Sox. He's a rental this time next year. Sure, you could fleece somebody at the trade deadline. You also could handcuff yourself and he walks. This is going to start getting weird. We'll see what team takes themselves out of the mix first. That could express some things. You might see the Red Sox pull out and then the White Sox pivot right over to us. They could be more willing to trade him than we realize. The reports are all over the place, but like we've been saying in the offseason podcast, everything kind of hinges on this. Everything with the Phillies offseason hinges on what are we doing with Alec Boehm. If Alec Boehm's gone, then you got to replace third. If he's staying, you got to get pitching somewhere else. So what's your move? The stove is hot. The ball is rolling. Guys are signing all over the place. You can't be late to the boat because now if Alex Bregman signs somewhere, you don't really have a good plan B. You're talking about a bridge player now if Bregman signs, which again, if we're getting Garrett Crochet, I've always been okay with that. I'm okay with a bridge third baseman if it means we have Garrett Crochet and we can go from there. But this team needs a right-handed hitter. It needs a little bit more pitching depth, not necessarily a starter. I would like Tanner Scott. I already have Tanner Banks. He's ours. But yeah, Scott, get me a reliever. Maybe even go get Jeff Hoffman now. Now that some of these reliever contracts are coming out, the reliever market's a little bit more reasonable A lot more reasonable than the starter market. The starter market is bananas. You can get Jeff Hoffman at like a 2 for 22. I'd bring him back instantly. We're going to see some action from the bullpen with the Phillies. We're going to see them again all offseason, probably in on the trade pieces in the next offseason. I've had a couple conversations with Phillies fans on Twitter and on the interwebs over the last couple of days. Dombrowski's sleeping. He's not sleeping. I promise Dave Dombrowski's not sleeping. There's what we need and the current market. They don't blend real good. They just don't blend really good. But I think when you step back and look at the bigger picture, how this team is orchestrated, the way they're planning on retooling. I've been saying this for 2 years. 2025 is the final year of phase 1. We are going into the final season of phase 1 in the Harper era. There is a phase 2. There's a phase 2. At the end of 2025, you're going to see Schwarber's contract fall off. You're going to see Romuto's contract fall off. You're going to see Ranger Suarez is out of arbitration now. Next winter, this team will be spending money again. So I think it kind of lined up. This wasn't the offseason where they were going to spend a ton of money, although reports are out that they're in on Roki Sasaki. I think that's just nonsense. They're going to spend a ton of money next winter if they have to. I wouldn't be against bringing Schwarber back, especially if he has another good season. But they're going to be spenders next winter. This isn't a situation where Dombrowski's sitting on his hands. The Phillies don't have money to spend. Like, what are they doing? No, they just brought in investors. They're all over the trade market. They have almost $100 million falling off next season. This is a year where they're going to make a couple minor adjustments, hopefully a big trade splash, and you go from there. And then next winter, we retool it again and we run it back. I've been telling you guys since we started this podcast, the window for a championship with the Philadelphia Phillies, regardless of what else is going on with everyone else in the division, is Bryce Harper's career. They are going to keep pushing this boat as long as he's in a uniform, as long as Bryce Harper has an 800 OPS or better. They're going to keep going, and they're going to keep spending money, and they're going to keep filling their own holes with money if they have to. The big game changer for this team, before I wrap things up here, is going to be getting arbitration production. You've got to get a guy, whether it's Andrew Painter at some point in 25, Aiden Miller or Justin Crawford in 2026. You've got to have a Mark Vientos type player, type of impact. You've got to have a guy come through this team on arbitration money. Remember, Bryce Harper won his first MVP making $2 million. Not 27. He was making $2 million when he won his first MVP. The Phillies desperately need to combine these stars and these contracts with a young guy that's producing like a star and like a big contract player. I love Bryson Stott. Not a star, though. He's a good second baseman. We need a star that's not making star money. And that's not a lot to ask. That's development. That's player development. That's in-house. Teams have that. It's not asking too much. We don't have that. That's what we're missing. The Phillies are not hesitant to spend money. I think they've spent great money outside of Taijuan Walker. I think their books are great. The Harper and Trey Turner contracts look even better as the years go by. Juan Soto's making more than both of them combined. It's insane. The Phillies are in a good spot. They've got to start developing their own talent. They've got to have their own guys come up. We need a offensive version of Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez. That's what we need. We need a guy in a lineup. It was Bohm for 3 months, but then it wasn't Bohm for 3 months. Who is it going to be? Our dog of the week here on the Terry Pinstripe podcast, unfortunately, is Steve Cohen. That man is barking. He was chirping too. I seen a clip of him on Twitter this morning. Someone asked him, what do you think about the other bidders that are in on this? And his response was, who are the other bidders again? Very sarcastically. Very sorry. Like, no one's bidding with me. Come on. And he's right. They're not. They're not. Net worth isn't the end-all, be-all, but his net worth is quadruple the $4 billion John Middleton is worth. The man can do whatever he wants. They are the one team in baseball that can spend $50 million a year on a guy that's going to be a full-time DH by the time he's 30. They can do that because they're going to be able to go buy that extra position player if they need it for defense. Steve Cohen's the dog of the week. The Mets are not going anywhere. They're only going to keep getting better, but that does not mean the Phillies can't put it together and beat them too, because we're going to spend money. Got some guys coming. I think Andrew Painter is going to be the big piece that really pushes the Phillies forward once we get him in the rotation. So I'm going to see you guys in the next one. The stove is hot. I'm sure there will be more news. We might even get a second pod this week. You never know with how things are going. The winter meetings are starting up. And check out Blitzball Battle 5 if you haven't already. Again, we're in the semifinals right now. Like my boy Rosie told you earlier, it's getting heated. There's 4 teams left. I might be one of them. Go check them out. See you guys in the next podcast.